some of you may remember Andy. We spoke about family and friends, part of my Wheel of Life series on my Paul Goddard NLP and hypnotherapy. But here on Exploring the Afterlife, I'm just going to introduce Andy a little bit, and then we'll get into the law of attraction, because Andy has written this wonderful one. Let me get it back out again. Cavemen and Polar Bears, absolutely fantastic. If you do get an opportunity as well to see one of Andy's talks, I highly recommend you go to see it, because not only will you be informed and learned about the way your mind works, your unconscious, and how you can program yourself for an outstanding life, it's also very funny. Andy throws in a lot of humor in his talk, because we learn best when we're engaged in what somebody says. When I have been to Andy's talks, everybody's been hanging on his word. And I've said before on my channel, but I must say again, Dr. David Hamilton is a fantastic speaker, author. Always says that Andy is a hard act to follow if you have to go on after Andy. And you can tell when Andy, when Dr. David Hamilton says that, you know, he truly means it. So if you're lucky enough to see one of Andy's talks, do come along to that. Andy was a former police officer and is a hypnotherapist, similar to myself, but Andy is a solutions-focused hypnotherapist. So we'll just delve a little bit into some of those bits and pieces, what solution focus means compared to maybe what I do, the classic. But this is about law of attraction, and one of Andy's talks, workshops, is about law of attraction. So that's the topic for today. So Andy, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Well, no, do you know, goodness, I was just about to say thank you for inviting me, but what I have to say is thank you for that build-up. It's my goodness me, you always make me feel very humble when you do that, because I just think it's. I've just watched something on the television this lunchtime, and it said it's some advert saying if you do what you enjoy, you'll never work another day in your life. And quite frankly, that's exactly how I feel right now. You know, it's I'm blessed. I enjoy being a police officer as much as you possibly can. You're dealing with some of the funniest, but also some of the darkest things at times. And I love to do it. You don't do that job without love. But oh my goodness me, this I know now. This is what I love. You know, it's I did go to work on a number of occasions in my 30-odd years as a police officer. I don't go to work at all when I'm doing this. I just love my life at the moment, so it's good. But thank you. It's a nice build-up. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, and it's lovely to see you again. And you're dressed really, really smartly. Slightly different area to where you were last time, and I do love the art in the background. Now, I know you do art. Is that one of your works in the background?
I really wish it was, Paul. No, it's not. No, this is where I usually do all my my therapies. The client is directly opposite me here. So that's just one of my many bookshelves. I'm such a bookworm. It's incredible. And these are big screens that have just got Buddha on them. I use the Buddha because it's been scientifically proven that if we see the Buddha, we immediately get exactly the same serotonin rush as we would if we'd done the same meditation. It's very interesting how almost every house in the Western world has got a Buddha image somehow. It's either got a picture or a statue or both. And very many people say, oh, I love the Buddha. They have no idea why. But the second you see the Buddha, your brain that knows no difference between imagination and reality at its core will immediately say, oh, that's somebody meditated. Oh, yeah, I get meditating. I know what. And immediately you get the same serotonin rush.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Also, as well, the Buddha is often, people actually have what is called the God of Plenty statue in their homes, and they often confuse that with the Buddha. So that's actually quite a nice, the God of Plenty, because there is plenty, and there is enough good for all of us to go around.
Absolutely.
We will go into that to begin with, but I know you've mentioned this on my other channel, but there are new people to this channel. If you can explain how you went from being a police officer and when you retired to actually thinking, you know what I want to do, I want to become a solution-focused hypnotherapist, and then how the law of attraction then came into that work as well.
Okay, no, that's fine. So I joined the police service in 1986. I was in the Royal Air Force previous to that, and I was only in the Air Force for 3 years before I joined up to be a Royal Air Force policeman. And forgive me, that's very dated, that language, isn't it? I was a policeman, but I was a Royal Air Force police officer, and I found that actually I've been trained to be a police officer, but all I did was an infantryman's job. I led in a field and looked after nuclear weapons every day. And that wasn't my ideal of being a policeman. And I know I'm Bristolian, but I put the L on that word on purpose. It wasn't my ideal. I thought of being a police officer. So I joined the civvies with the Avon and Somerset Police, and I went a fair while without being promoted. It took me 15 years to become a sergeant. I didn't try all those 15 years, in fairness. I was not interested at all in being promoted until, like most people, you work with somebody and you think, I've got to be able to do a better job than you. I've got to be able to treat people better than you are. And so that drove me to become a sergeant. And then once you're on that slippery ladder, you think, well, it's got to be worth the pension just to go another rung higher if I can. So I was trying to be an inspector. And that's a long way of saying that actually I was useless at academic stuff. I'm very arty, I'm very crafty. You give me anything to do with my hands, I can do it. But academically, I'm not thick. I'm just not inclined to do the study. But I did try, and it took me 5 attempts to pass my sergeant's exam. And I tried to pass my inspector's exam. And on the second failed attempt, I actually failed my exam worse than I did the year before, despite the fact I'd done another 12 months work. And that's ridiculous. I mean, that just shouldn't happen. So my brother, I've got one brother, a younger one, Nigel. He was a big lad at the time. He would not worry about me saying so. And through a contact with our family, I recognized that a lady that we knew had lost a lot of weight. And I found out that she'd done it through seeing a hypnotherapist. So I asked if I could have the details of the gentleman that she'd seen, and I passed them to my brother. He lost so much weight in the first 12 months of him seeing this hypnotherapist that he went from well over 22, 23 stone right down to 16 stone. And it just so happened, law of attraction, whatever, but it just so happened on the exact anniversary of his first appointment with this hypnotherapist, he was 16 stone and running the New York Marathon on that very day. So it was remarkable. Everybody thought that he was ill. He'd lost so much weight that everybody was utterly convinced that he had something really unpleasant. And as a result of him reassuring people and saying, no, it's fine. I did just seen a hypnotherapist. He'd actually become this guy's greatest walking advertisement. Anyway, I couldn't pass my exams clearly. And because he'd had such a fantastic response, I said to him, do you think your friend, the hypnotherapist, would be able to help me with my exams? Possibly, he said. Yeah, why don't you give him a call and find out? So this guy very confidently said, yeah, I can help you. Yeah, come and see me. He lived up in Gloucester, and we were in Bristol. So he said, actually, bring your brother up. He said, I can give him his free top up, because by now he was such a good advert, he was actually giving him treatment free. And he said, I can give him his free top up and do your session at the same time. So we go up there and we had the appointment, and yeah, it was really good. I mean, I was so relaxed. My eyes were streaming. I wasn't crying, but my eyes were streaming with tears, because I was just so relaxed. My whole body thought I'd gone to sleep, and I was getting all the wash in my eyes, and that happens with lots of people. And at the end of it, I didn't feel any different. Having said that, this is where it ties in with the law of attraction a little bit, because obviously I didn't take an exam that day. I didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But he happened to say, just completely out of the blue, I haven't got another appointment now for a couple of hours. I'm about to make a cup of tea. You guys have come all the way up from Bristol. Would you like a cup of tea before you go home? And we both said, yes, that's fine, thank you. And whilst we were having a cup of tea, I'm a gentleman who's quite open with his emotions and his feelings, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So as part of the conversation, I said to him, I can't thank you enough for what you did for my brother. And he said, oh, it's nothing. I said, well, no, on the contrary, you see, I don't think it is nothing. I said, he's lost so much weight. I think you've probably given me my brother for an extra 10 years than I would have had him had he not received your help. I said, I think you're really special, and I just want to say thank you for that. He said, it's very kind of you. He said, but I'm not a special. He said, you could do what I do. And I said, no, I could. Yes, you could. I said, I wouldn't have the first clue. He said, and neither did I until I trained. He said, but just sitting here talking to you now, he said, you're a nice chap. You're a friendly chap. He said, you've got a nice tone of voice. Yes, you've got an accent, but most of your clients locally will have the same one, so they won't even notice. He said, you all I do is relax people. He said, you're very easy company to be with. And he said, all I do is relax them and then give them advice. He said, you've been a cop for 25 years. He said, who better to give advice? So anyway, I came home that day and my wife said, oh, how did it go? How did it go? Because she really wanted me to be promoted. And I said, well, it's fab. I said, I think I'm going to be a hypnotherapist. She said, you didn't go for that? Well, not something else, because she's very used to that. Not something else, and I said, well, no, not now. But you know what? At some point later on, I'm going to retire very early. And I think I might have found something I'd like to do. So the nice side of the story was that was the first year I ever walked into an exam hall thinking, bring it on. Bring it on. Whatever you got ready for me, just ask the questions because I'm ready for you. And that was remarkable. That was such a different experience to the complete meltdown that I used to experience when I went into exams. And I not only passed the exam that year, I came 24th in the UK. And being my usual doubting Thomas that I am about my own abilities, this is genuine, I actually phoned the examination board in London to ensure that they'd sent the results to the right person. And the poor lady on the end of the phone, she spoke to me like I was a 7-year-old. She actually said, yes, Mr. Workman, you've done very well done. You know, it's like, oh my God. So I'd come in the top 1.5%. And the only difference in all of that, but for all the previous years, was not the amount of work I put in. It wasn't about the amount of books I'd read. It was all about the attitude I walked into that room with. And the second I had belief in myself, the second I opened my head up to the possibility that I was going to succeed, it just said, oh, thank goodness for that. We've been doing this for years, and we've just been waiting for you to have that sea change in your thought process. Let's go for it. And so, yeah, I literally walked the exam. It was unbelievable. So that had sparked an interest in my hypnotherapy. And then at some point, I had a real turnaround in my life. I don't like the thought of an epiphany moment because it wasn't religious in any stretch, in any way. Our family had some struggles. One of our teenage sons definitely had his challenges throughout his teens, and that tested us. There's no two ways about it. That tested us. The footnote is he's fantastically stable now and an incredibly successful young man. But at that time, things were going horribly wrong. And we met somebody who we knew as a friend who had claimed to be clairvoyant. I say claimed because she did claim it, and I totally believe now that she is. Having said that, I had that healthy niggling doubt at the time. But she said things to us without any personal knowledge of what was going on that was just so detailed and so accurate that I actually found myself saying to her, I need to come and see you for a reading, don't I? And she said, oh my goodness, Andy, however long have I been waiting for you to say that? And I said, yeah, but you know I'm scared of things like that. And she said, and I keep telling you there's no need to be. So she said, just come and see me. As a result of that meeting, I ended up joining her spirit development circle. I found out that I could do things that I never imagined possible. And I thoroughly enjoyed the social aspect of lots of people meditating in the same room and everything else. But one day, I had, it's just crazy. One of the sessions, the lady that ran it, she came out of her meditation and said that she had a gift for everybody. And when she got to me, she said, Spirit are sending you a book. And she said, I don't know what it is. She said, I don't know whether it is a book or whether it's knowledge, because sometimes that's what a book means to me. But she said it's got Simon Says written all over the cover. She said, I can't tell you any more other than it's distinctly got Simon Says written on the cover. So I immediately said, well, that's fine. My two best friends at the time just happened to be Simon, both of them. And they were always giving me advice. So I'll take that. That's fine. When we went for a coffee afterwards, one of the ladies said, oh, Andy, she said, I think you, I've been reading a book I think you'd love, and I did not connect the two at all. But she said, I know you're a bookworm. She said, and I've been reading a book. She said, I think it might be of interest to you. Really? She said, yeah, it's called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. So I said, oh, okay, all right. Now, I'm one of those people that if somebody says, oh, I watched a film and it was really good, I say, okay, I'll watch that. Oh, I've read a book. All right, I'll read the book. So sure enough, I order The Secret from Amazon. Other book sellers are available, but I bought it from Amazon. And it came through in the post. And I did my usual thing of flicking through it and thinking, wow, that's quite a good book for the money I paid. And then as I read the dust cover on the back, I had that moment where your hair stands up on the side of your arms because you go goosey. Because when I got to the bottom of the page, I noticed it was actually printed at the time, because they've changed the printers now, but at the time it was printed by a company called Simon & Schuster. And their website address, plastered all over the bottom of the book, was www.simonsays.co.uk. Okay, that's spooky now. That's a bit spooky. So I read this book from start to finish. And it blows my socks off. I mean, it's just like, wow, if this stuff works, I've got to give this a go. Well, I did. And it did work. It was amazing. And so I started to keep a book. I started to keep a little notebook. And I used to write down what I wanted my manifestations to be. And time again, they came true. And one of them that I wrote in there was that I was grateful that I was a successful hypnotherapist, that I had found the course that I needed, that I had found the funding to pay for the course, that I was attracting clients well, and everything else. I go to the next spirit meeting a couple of weeks later, and one of the ladies there comes in and she says, I'm really tired. So I said, really? Why is that then? She said, I'm on a course at the moment. She said, I've done my course all day and now I've come to this, and to be frank, I'm just whacked. And I said, oh, what course are you doing? And she said, oh, I'm doing a massage therapy course. And I said, oh, really? I said, I'd love to be a therapist. She said, what, massage? I said, no. I said, I'd like to be a hypnotherapist. Why don't you? She says. So I said, well, I just don't know where I'm going to find the money. I said, I know which course I'd like to do. I've done the research. I'd like to do it, but it's £2,000 odd. And I just, right now, I haven't got that to hand. And she said, well, why don't you get a career development loan? What's that? So she said, so a loan from the government. They pay for your training, you do the training, and then a month after you graduate, you start to pay it back. Okay. I said, well, I'd love to. I said, but it's probably means tested. And as much as I'm not Rockefeller, unfortunately, as a police officer, I'm probably not within the means testing. And she said, there's no means testing to it, Andy. Her Majesty the Queen could do it if only she was allowed to change her job. She could become a plumber if she wanted to do the course. It's like, really? Yeah. So I did the application, and within a week, my course was not only found, but it was paid for. So I got on with it. And I used to be a semi-professional Highland piper. And so what I did was my wedding bookings went up through the roof that year. And so I put all the money that I earned from my weddings into a fund. And the day that I needed to pay back my course, I did it in full. So I paid no interest, no nothing. I just used that 12 months to save up what I didn't have to hand. So yeah, I was very lucky. But it just ties in with the meeting with Jim Robbins, who unfortunately, as I say, he's passed away now, the hypnotherapist. But that chance conversation with him, the chance conversation that got me the book, that just happened to have the right words written on the cover. It was just the chance of having that conversation about the very thing that I'd written in my manifestation book. And yeah, to be able to pay that back after the 12 months, it's just, and I know that all sounds like consequences that might have happened anyway. I mean, you know, from our history together, I got some stories where the consequences are so ridiculous it couldn't possibly be the case. But it's just embracing that and saying, consequence or not, I choose to believe that that's the law of attraction. That is what sets fire to the situation of possibilities and manifestations and blessings and everything else.
Fantastic. And as you actually say that to me, you know, I do get the Twilight Zone music going through my head. It is you know, really quite amazing. How important, because you've actually got a diary that you wrote down, your manifestation diary, how important to attracting is that? Because I've known people that use the law of attraction, read The Secret, and it works brilliant for them, and other people it just doesn't. So what's the difference that makes the difference? Most of the time, do you find what has people that it works when they pick up the book, it changed their lives, and those that it continues the same way and they end up being disappointed?
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with people is there is a definite keenness to participate when they read The Secret. Oh yes, right, I'm going to do this. The difference is I'm going to do this and it's going to work, I have no doubt, to I'm going to do this but it won't work because that's just not the way I am. I'm just not that lucky. I'll give it a go, but look, it's ridiculous. I'll give it a go, but those are the people that aren't going to get anything from it. And it's, you see, from the hypnotherapy side of things, I can actually justify why it would work if you've got that belief system anyway. If you have a mindset that says everything is well, everything will be well. If you've got the mindset that says, I'll give this a go, but it won't work because everything's always bad for me, it will always be bad for you anyway. So, and there is scientific research to suggest that would be the case. So you can do the law of attraction with no belief whatsoever in a higher power. I personally don't. My higher power is not the God that is worshipped in churches and has little lightning rods that it sends to people that are naughty. My God is the universal God, the one that has got the same power and the same personality, regardless of what name you call it or what the building is that you praise in. Doesn't matter. My God is the one that makes all the leaves grow and the little nails on a baby's fingers perfect at birth and things like that. You know, it's not a vengeful God, and you don't need to do anything to please it. That's the lovely thing. It's pure love. So you can believe in that as much as you like, or you can take the perfectly scientific quantum physics line and it'll still work for you, providing you go in with the expectation that it will. If you go in with an expectation that I'm going to give it a go, but I'm not that lucky, it's going to fail anyway, guess what's going to happen?
Exactly. So I think that's not... Sorry, were you going to say something else then?
So the simple answer is it's the belief system behind it. That's all it is.
Talking about belief systems, now it's not so much about the law of attraction, but we can talk about how it does, and I think to those watching it will be obvious. Yeah. But you mentioned you were a Highland Piper. Yes. Can you tell the story when you kept saying, I can't do something with your trainer, and then how that, you know, shows how the law of attraction can work when you think you can rather than you think you can't?
Okay, yeah, that is the perfect example, really. So I wanted to learn the Highland bagpipes. I've always wanted to do it since I was a kid, and I finally took the plunge to take the lesson when I was about 30. And everybody kept saying to me all the way around me, oh, well, you're not Scottish, it's pointless, you won't find anyone to teach you, you know, you started far too late, your fingers won't be supple enough, and all that sort of thing. And I didn't listen, and I thought, no, do you know what, I've got to get this out of my system. And so I did find a teacher in Bristol, and he wasn't Scottish either, but he'd been playing it since he was a little kid. And I got on and I wanted to practice, and so I passionately sat there every day, driving my poor neighbours and my wife nuts while I was practicing, but I grasped it quite quickly. But there's one particular movement, one particular configuration on your fingers that's called a tarloa, and it's quite tricky. It really is. It's like a Tom and Jerry moment when you see their poles being tied in knots because they're trying to do something so quick. You do feel like your fingers are going to become knotted. And I couldn't do it. And this one day, one evening, I sat there in front of my teacher, and he was facing me over the table, and I was trying so hard to play the tarlo, and I just couldn't do it. And he said to me, "What on earth is the matter with you today?" And I said, "I just can't do it." And he said, "Well, you won't, will you? As long as you're telling yourself, you won't be able to do that." Now, to my eternal shame, I used to think, this man's an idiot. You only had to look at his bookshelf to see it absolutely covered in self-help and mindset books. I just thought, this man's a nutter. Don't look at my library now. But it was awful. It was awful. I mean, I make my money, I make my living now doing exactly what I thought this man was nuts for doing. So anyway, he said to me, put your chanter down, put it on the table. And so I did. And he said, right. He said, you keep telling yourself you can't do it and your brain is listening. Oh, here we go. So he said, what I want you to do is I want you to tell yourself in your head quietly to yourself 10 times that you can play the tarlo perfectly. And I said to him, but I can't. He said, for goodness sakes, just join in for 5 minutes. He said, tell yourself 10 times that you can play the tarlo perfectly. Tell yourself louder on each occasion and with more passion. He said, you should be screaming it in your head by the time you get to the end. Right, I think he's not going to back off. I'm going to have to get this done. So I sit in front of him and I start saying in my head, I play a tarlo perfectly. I play a tarlo perfectly. And every time I said it, I joined in. I said it with more passion. I said it louder. And when I finished and did the 10, he said, right, have you done? I said, yes, I've done. He said, right, now I want you to tell me that you play the tarlo perfectly. I want you to say it louder each time. And I want you to get more passionate. He said, you should be screaming it at me by the time you finished. And again, to my eternal shame, I thought, right, you, stand by. Because I'm an ex-military policeman, I can shout. So by the time I was saying it the 10th time, I was literally leaning over the table at him. I was probably a couple of centimeters away from his nose with mine. And, well, I swear I could see his ears moving with the volume of how I was screaming at him. And he took it, bless him. He didn't respond in any way, he just calmly sat there as I'm screaming at him. And as I got to my 10th time, he just said, are you done? And I said, yeah. He said, if you play the tarlo perfectly, show me. And I picked it up and I did. I played it perfectly. And he said, well done, do it again. And I did, and I did, and I did, and I did. And it just proved that I only had to tell my own doubting brain 20 times that I could do something that I felt was impossible, and it was possible. You know, it's just incredible how your brain works. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute people go to a 3-story building and say, I can fly off the top of this without any assistance. That's ridiculous. But we are so restricted by our own self-doubts, by our own indoctrination about what we can and can't do, what we should and shouldn't do. You know, we're living in a more enlightened age now, but you imagine how in the past so many women in particular didn't do what they could do with their lives just because they were told, you're a woman, you can't do that. And whether it was because they thought they were physically weak, whether it thought they were restrained by protocols and expectations of society, they couldn't do it. And of course, the thing is that as long as you keep being told you can't do it, you've got to have a fairly strong mindset to be able to challenge that, not only for yourself, but for those people that have got those preconceptions, you know. And when you do, you blow your own socks off, let me tell you. You find you can do things.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that, I mean, it's the saying that Henry Ford saying, whether you believe you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. I think that something that might be overused, but I think that it's overused because it is so true. Yeah. I think I slightly messed up the quote there, but yeah, I do know it. But what I'd like to also say as well is when you do your workshops on the law of attraction, what are some of the things you teach the students and how to get into the manifesting mindset?
I think it's recognizing those moments where it's really strange, isn't it, how so often we think about doing something, we're passionate about it, we throw all our love into it and it works, and we just put that down to our passion and our efforts and everything else, when in actual fact it could be universally assisted, and so often we'll go into things thinking, I'm not going to get this job, I'm not going to get this job, I'm not going to get this job, and actually you don't get it. And that reinforces your belief that you weren't good enough, that you didn't have what they were looking for, that you were just a number on the list that they ticked off because they already knew which candidate was going to get the job anyway. But is it a possibility? Is it just a possibility that the reason you didn't get the job is because you kept telling the universe you weren't going to get the job? And it's amazing how many times in my career as an interviewer, I would see people who had the very skills we were looking for. They were a favorite for that position. All they had to do was say the right thing and do the right thing on the day, and they would have been the candidate of choice. And for a week before, all you're hearing is, oh God, I'm not going to get it. I so want it, but I'm not going to get it. And then they walk through the door and it's like it's a completely different person. You would not want them to do that job, because although they're capable of it, my goodness me, an interview, they cannot put that over. Why? Because they've convinced themselves before they've even started to convince anyone else. So it's recognizing those times in your life when just the possibility that it might be possible has been manifested in you missed why. Nobody had introduced you to the concept that it might have actually been you that influenced that right from day one. So it's about embracing it as an idea, embracing it as fun. Start small, and it's quite, there's a lovely book called E Squared. I think it's
yes,
called
Pam Grout, is it?
Yes, Pam Grout, that's the one. Yes. Now that's a very good one. And that's a classic example of how that works. So I'm not going to, but I could dash off and get it now. I still got, thankfully, I've still got a little business card case. It's silver in color. It's not silver, I wish it was, but it's silver in color and it's quite patterned. It's got filigree patterns all over it. And I bought that in a sale somewhere. I think it was Lakeland or something like that. Anyway, I love it. It's so nice. And when somebody asks you for a business card, to be able to find it in your pocket straight away and have them nice and flat and presentable is quite nice. I couldn't find that. I'd lost it and I could not find it. I had turned my house upside down looking for it, utterly convinced myself that it had gone. And it had been like that for months. Couldn't find it anywhere. I went to London and I saw, it was actually for a Hay House conference, a Hay House I Can Do It conference. And we went up there to see David Hamilton and Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay herself, actually, on one occasion. And Pam Grout did a speech. She did a presentation about E Squared. It was new off the press. And I bought it and got her to sign it and everything. And on the way home, I started to read it. And we were on the train. Karen and I were traveling back. And E Squared gives you a number of exercises, starting very small, to build up and convince yourself that actually you do have some influence over the results of these experiments. And the first one was, think about something that you'd like to do. Think about something perhaps you'd like to find. Something that you've struggled to find for a little while, something that you know would be a possibility. It does exist, it's no good thinking, well, I've been looking for a unicorn horn forever. Yes, clearly they exist, but the horns are a little bit more difficult to find. So, so you have to think about something that, so I thought straight away, right, okay, I know exactly what I want to find. I have been trying to find my little silver business card case for months. So come on, universe, by tomorrow morning, I will have found my business card case. So I go to bed that night. I don't give it another thought. The next morning I wake up and the alarm's gone off. It's completely pitch dark in our house, in our room. It's a autumn morning rather, really dark. And I reach around on the bedroom floor for my dressing gown because for some reason or another I knew it was going to be down there. It wasn't, it was hanging up as usual, but I thought it was down there. And I put my hand on something underneath my bedside cabinet, and it was fabric. And I thought, what on earth is that? So I pull it out from underneath my bedside cabinet, and I still don't know what it is. I'm still in the dark, but it's fabric. And I pull it up, and all of a sudden it becomes very weighty. It's like, what is that? So I turn on my bedside light, and it's a fabric suit cover. And it's one of those you put in the wardrobe to keep everything off of your clothes. I had no idea why it was underneath my bedside cabinet. But the second I unzip it to find out what's inside, it's my metal business card case. Now, that's the very next morning, you know, and that's as true as I sit here. The one thing I will never, ever do is tell any form of fabrication or lie. I'll never gild the lily about this because, one, you don't need to. The law of attraction and practicing it is so awesome. You don't need to build up the stories because they'll blow your socks off just as they happened. And the other one is, I don't ever think it's fair if I sit here telling you how fantastic I am at it and I'm lying to you, it's just going to build everybody else up for a fall. And all I want is to get the message out to people that this works. This works. Use it, enjoy it, immerse yourself in it, and it will benefit you. And telling you lies is going to do nothing but build you up for a fall. So I swear to you, the very next morning, before I even got out of bed, I found the business card case that I'd been looking for months, just because I'd asked for it the night before. Now, some people say that that's a latent memory that you didn't have. You knew where it was all along, and it's only opening up that mindset and saying, I will remember where it is. Your brain goes, well, I've known it all along. You just haven't asked me in the right way. And that's fine. And that's fine. Because whether it's that it works like that, or the universe itself is guiding my hand down underneath my bedside cabinet to find my fabric cover, one way or the other, it's worked. So it doesn't matter whether it was a divine hand guiding me or whether it was psychologically, purely scientifically explainable and saying my brain suddenly realized I did know all along where it was. One way or the other, I have just manifested the very result I was asking for. So you can approach it from both sides of that coin and still get the same result.
Absolutely, and I can truly 100% vouch for your integrity, everybody that's watching as well. What I know people are going to be asking, and as people, as you know, very dear to me at the moment, that could do with law of attraction and healing. Can you talk about, is there any stories that you're able to talk about? Because I know sometimes it can be very personal, but law of attraction and healing that you're able to mention here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that what we need to bear in mind is I'm not going to tell you fibs or anything like that. So I haven't actually got any evidence of my own of healing. Having said that, I do understand how it would work. And I do understand how it would work from a perfectly physical, research-driven medical reasoning. And I also understand that, faith healing is massive. Faith healing is utterly massive, and I do get that. I'm a Reiki master myself, so I'm more than happy to perfectly accept that healing takes place. But when we actually, one of the things that I tell an awful lot of my hypnotherapy clients when we come to talking about health and largely health anxieties and things like that, is we went to that Hay House conference, and there's a guy that does the writing for Hay House and does a lot of his presentations. And his name is Dr. Bruce Lipton. Now, Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And I'm going to try and do him justice, but we saw him speak live. Now, just as a little side note to give him some credibility, like his doctorate doesn't, of course, but Karen, my wife, is very, very, very into the law of attraction. However, as much as she is very accepting, if you say something to me, I'm not gullible, but I will politely accept what you're saying until I can prove otherwise. Who am I to argue? Karen is a little bit more questioning. She's a little bit more analytical. She will absolutely respect your view and your opinion, but if she's going to adopt that opinion herself, she will want a little bit more evidence. And so some of the things we've believed in the past, I've accepted quite readily. and she's needed a little bit more convincing. And I think that's a healthy balance. We went to see Bruce Lipton speak, and he explained what I'll tell you in a second. And at the end of it, she said, I get it now. I get it. And I said, really? What do you mean? She said, that man's just explained everything you're always talking about, but now I get it. So anyway, I went down to get my book signed by him. And I said to him, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It's so kind of you to be so generous with your time. And he said, oh, no, not at all, not at all. And he's signing the book. And I said, oh, by the way, my wife gets it now. And he looked up from signing the book and he said, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. I said, my wife, I said, as a direct result of listening to you, she gets it. And he said, what do you mean? And I explained to him what I said. He got up, he walked around the table, he gave me the warmest hug. And as he stepped back, he said, you've just made my day. If nobody else says anything else all day, you've just made my day. And I said, well, thank you, because you've made ours. And it was a really nice little exchange. But what the bit that Karen got, and this is really relevant to healing, is that Bruce Lipton was a doctor on the Geno Project. And his mission as part of that Geno Project was to try and find evidence that our health and our health conditions and our lack of health in some cases was purely genetic. It was written into your genes before you even arrive here. And we all know of that unconscious bias in research. It's a recognized phenomenon in all research programs that if you go out to prove that black is white, and every so often you come across evidence that says white is white, well, you might dismiss that because actually what you're trying to prove is black is white. And it might argue with your point, but you're desperately trying to get to the other end. So more and more he was finding that although he was trying to prove that health was genetically keyed in, the more he was finding this evidence to say, no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And whereas other people would dismiss the non-supportive evidence, Bruce was finding himself more and more in the position where he could no longer do that because it was overwhelming that no, it wasn't genetic. There was something else in play. And the experiment that he described that really spoke to me was that they got human stem cells, and human stem cells are absolute clones of each other, absolute clones. But the difference between a stem cell and any other physical cell in your body is a stem cell can be encouraged to become anything you want it to. So that's why it's so important in spinal treatments and things like that, because they can create spinal cord with stem cells. They can create blood with stem cells. They can create skin with stem cells. Whereas if you actually take a skin cell, you can only make skin with it, okay? So they take these stem cells and they stick them in cultures, and as they allow them to grow, what they actually notice is that these stem cells are becoming different things. Now, they're clones. They shouldn't be able to do that. If they're genetically driven, as the research was trying to prove, they should all be genetically driven to be making the same thing. These are clone cells. They should all be identical still. And they suddenly became aware that actually it wasn't the cell that was the influence. It was the environment in which it was being grown. So they took it one step further and they took exactly the same stem cells. They put them in culture dishes. One of them was immersed in all the positive hormones from the body. So the endorphins, the serotonin, the dopamines, all the oxytocin, all the beautiful feel-good drugs. They then also took the other side and they put into that the adrenaline, the cortisol, and all the nasty stress hormones. And what they found was that the really healthy cells were the ones that were in the healthy hormones, whereas the ones that had been placed into the stress hormones just withered and died. And when we take that to our bodies are the environment in which we are building ourselves. And so if we can create a happy, nice, calm, relaxed, and well environment, our cells are going to thrive. If we then take another person who is constantly stressed, constantly anxious, filled with adrenaline, filled with cortisol, sending all those stress hormones through the body. How on earth do we believe for one moment those cells that they create are going to be happy and healthy when they're absolutely immersed in that soup of worry? So the more we think we're going to get better, the more we aspire to reach that healthy environment, knowing it's going to happen. Thank you for my healing. I am so grateful that every cell in my body is healthy. Actually, what you're doing is immersing your body with that. Oh, thank God I'm healthy. That's fantastic. As opposed to, oh, please make me really well. I'm so sick. Please make me really well. Because if I don't get well, and it's going to be the end for me. Your body says, the end? We better get ready for that. And it completely immerses you in horrible stuff, which only allows those new cells to wither to exactly the same state as the ill ones. And that was Bruce's message. I mean, I'm really not doing him justice, but that was Bruce's message. And when I look at some of the developments in people that embrace hypnotherapy as clients and go with the, all right, I can do that. My goodness, it's miraculous. It's nothing short of miraculous. And that's not me. That's not the hypnotherapy practitioner, whoever they are. That's the person who's accepting that message and running with it. And they are their healer. They are not me. You know, I say to people, I'm the worst footballer in the world. I will keep kicking the ball to your feet. You are the striker in this game. It's for you to put your ball in the back of the net. I can't do that for you. All I can do is keep kicking the ball to your feet. And if you score, that's down to you. If you miss, that's down to you again. The good thing is I'll keep kicking the ball to your feet as long as you want me to.
Amazing.
It's you can do it. Everybody can do it. It's just having that mindset.
You know, and I truly think you gave it justice, said it really nice and clearly. And I'll also put Pam Grout's, your book, and Bruce Lipton's book in the description of this video. And if people do click the link and get hold of Bruce Lipton's book, you know, you totally give him injustice. And I can actually see, because it's a pre-record, through time and space, people just really being absolutely fascinated with what you've just said
Thank you.
So an attitude of gratitude is always incredibly important with the law of attraction. And I thought it might be really nice now if you could also add in the 4 Ps, the power up and oh, sorry, that's coming later. If you could add in the what you say at night and what you because you always say what you're grateful for every night and how that helps the law of attraction up. And then we'll get to the 4 Ps. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead of myself. That's what I wanted to finish with.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So the what I do with the gratitude is, you're absolutely right. And when people say, how does that work then? What's the gratitude all about? I say, right, okay, if I was to do you a favor, or I turn it around, I'll say it to the other person. If you were to do me a favor and I accepted that favor and I didn't say thank you, how likely are you to do me a favor again in the future? You're a nice person and you're very giving, but if I didn't thank you for your time or your trouble, how inclined would you be to do a favor for me again? And then invariably the answer is, well, of course I wouldn't. That's impolite. Well, in which case, when you get a blessing, why on earth don't we say thank you? Why don't we do that? You know, how many people do we know who are very quick to go to church or to get on bended knee at home or do whatever they need to be able to say, please, please, please do this. Please, please, please make me well. Please, please, please make my son well. Give him the job he needs, whatever it might be. Comes along. How many people go back to church or get back on their knees or look to the heavens and just say, thanks for that. Thanks for that. I do. And I'm not a saint. I don't go to church. I'm not religious, but I do have a faith, and my faith is in the universe to provide. But every time it does, I say thank you. And it works every time. So in order to practice that, but also in a really good way of getting yourself ready to notice even more of your blessings, I do what they call a 3 and 3 exercise. And the 3 and 3 is, every time I go to bed at night, I am grateful for what's happened, what I've received during the day. And that might be It's crazy, but it might be. I might have been given something, so I'm really grateful for the gift I received from whatever. Today, with quite genuinely, I will say I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to Paul again because I really enjoy your company. So you would be part of my blessings. I might say I'm really great. Thank you. I might be really grateful for the smile the little girl shared with me in the Lidl queue, because actually there's nothing you can share better than a smile. And it might be, in a really dark way, but making a positive of negatives, I'm really grateful perhaps that I've become aware of some of the little intricacies in a relationship that I've got with somebody that's maybe not as positive as I thought. I'm really grateful I've learned that lesson. Now, I haven't had that lesson today, but I'm just saying that even from the darkest things, really grateful. I'm really, really grateful that I've learned that I maybe can't trust somebody that I trusted as much as I might. That sounds dark, but we're grateful for those lessons. So the next morning, what I'll do is I'll be looking with gratitude for the things I'm expecting to happen that day. So I might be grateful that I can get up out of my bed unaided, perfectly fit and well. I might be grateful for the opportunity to speak to people this afternoon because I'm going to be able to go online with Paul and have a chat with people, knowing that hopefully some of them might embrace this and benefit from it themselves. I might be grateful if I could only get some of my work done. Oh, I'd be so grateful if I could do that. So what I'm doing is I'm already setting up my internal radar. It's actually called your reticular activating system, but you're setting up your internal radar to go out and seek more blessings because you've just programmed yourself to be receiving of blessings. And then the next night, I'm grateful again. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to Paul and everybody there. It was really lovely and I really enjoyed my time. I'm really grateful for the opportunity this morning to have spoken to a load of school kids about their mindset and things like that. So it's just when you go to bed at night grateful, you sleep better because you feel satisfied and blessed. When you get up the next morning and you're grateful for things that are coming, you're already looking for them. And it's every night, it might be you're grateful for the things you were looking forward to being grateful for. Most days, you'll find other things to be inventive with. Most days. But it's just setting that mindset before you go to bed and making sure it's reset every morning.
Amazing. I think it'd be an ideal time now, and thank you for this. It's actually soon approaching the hour mark. It's gone so quickly. I've just been so fascinated, and really thank you for your time that you've given towards this. How can people get in contact with you if you want to take one of your workshops or see you as a one-to-one? We can get your book through Amazon, but if there's any other way of getting your wonderful, wonderful book through Amazon, if you can let people know about that now.
Thank you. That's lovely. My website is andyworkman.co.uk. My email is info@andyworkman.co.uk. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter and I'm on Instagram. You name the social media platform, I'm usually somewhere on there. And if you go to my website, all the links are there so that they can join me there. I'm more than happy to be followed by anybody. I'm just grateful for any interaction that people give me. And I'm never on the hard sell. Just come and join me and have a look and see where I am. And if you come along, then please introduce yourself. I've never understood people that I've never been looking for fame. Never am I looking for fame. But you see all these famous people saying, "Oh my goodness, life is so intrusive." And you think, well, you chose your career. Did you really think that wasn't going to happen? And I'm the complete opposite. I didn't look for fame. I don't class myself as famous at all. But people coming up afterwards and speaking, it's just lovely. I just love that personal interaction. It's smashing. So if we do get to meet at any time, then by all means come up and say hello and say that you've seen me here, and it would be nice to catch up and see what you've done yourselves to be able to sort out and manifesting some stuff for you.
That's lovely. Are you still doing your radio show? Because I remember I was listening to some of your radio shows for a time. On an internet radio show. Is that happening still?
I did it for a while, and then unfortunately it was just I wasn't able to give it the time to be able to produce the length of program that particular company wanted every single week, fitting it all in. So rather than actually take it to a lower standard just to rush it, I stepped back from that. But yeah, I'm constantly looking and being asked to do my own podcast. So I'm constantly looking to see whether we're going to be able to get to do that. But again, I'm not going to be doing anything that I don't think will be a good standard that the people out there deserve. So watch this space. We'll see what we do.
Absolutely. And I think the previous shows are still available for people to listen to.
Yes, they are. They're a lovely bunch of people. It was Wellbeing Radio, and it's an internet radio show. So yes, the previous programs are on there. I have absolutely nothing but respect for them. So by all means, go on there and find my shows if you possibly can. It'd be lovely to get some listeners.
Wonderful. Now, what I slightly messed up earlier, but the 4 Ps, and are you still got those badges? I must purchase one of those 4 Ps.
I haven't got them. I haven't got them with me here right now, unfortunately, but I have got them. Yeah. So the 4 Ps, are basically the way that we remember how to speak to ourselves. So our brain works in a way that doesn't know any difference between imagination and reality. It has no idea of time, and it has no idea of an untruth. So unfortunately, we're very often telling ourselves that we're not good enough, that nobody likes us, that we're useless at what we're trying to do, that we'll never succeed. And our brain says, your wish is my command. Your wish is my command. And like a genie, it produces all the bad feelings that you would experience if people didn't like you and you were useless. And it's tosh. It's tosh. We say things to ourselves that are so spiteful and so dishonest that we wouldn't tolerate anybody else saying it to anyone else we knew, never mind us. And it's just ridiculous. So to counter that, we can use the 4 Ps to be able to give ourselves some real good positive affirmations. The first P is personal. I. Every affirmation should start with I. It's lovely to be part of a team. I'm part of a 34-year marriage, and I can't influence Karen by saying we think this. I can only influence me. So I. The second P, it has to be present. If I say to myself, I can do this, my brain says, well, why aren't you then? If you can, why aren't you? I will be able to do this. You will? That means you can't yet. Oh my goodness. If you say, I am, that's present. That's now. There's no question what you mean. The 4th P, and I've jumped the 3rd one on purpose, the 4th P is the positive affirmation that you want. I am happy. I am calm. I am confident. I am able. If you do that, you will be happy. You will be calm. You'll be confident. You'll be able. But the 3rd P is a power up. Why would you be satisfied with being happy if you can be deliriously happy? Why would you be satisfied with being confident if you can be strangely confident? You're not just confident. It's odd how confident you are. Why would you be calm if you could be blissfully calm? So the 4 Ps are I am, the power up, and the present. Personal, present, power up, and positive. Sorry. Personal, present, power up, the positive. I am blissfully happy. I am incredibly calm. I am awesomely able. Whatever it is, if you tell yourself that, your brain that knows no difference between imagination and reality will believe every word. And the second you say it, you are creating that hormonal balance in your body that's going to convince every cell in your body that you can do whatever you set your mind to. It works. Ladies and gentlemen, it works. Please try it.
Amazing. We've got probably literally 3 minutes left, so I can fit it into the hour that I can set on this day. Is there anything you'd like to add to what we've mentioned so far? And again, thank you so much for your time to spare.
Not at all. It's an absolute pleasure. I would just say that the law of attraction and your positive mindset is very much like water. If you try and grab it, it's just going to go right through your fingers. If you try and cup it, it will just do exactly the same. The only way to enjoy water fully is to dive in, fully immerse yourself in it, head and shoulders right down to your toes. If you immerse yourself with the right positive, yes, this will work, it will work. Don't mess about, just get straight in and fill your life with manifestations of fun and joy, because it will happen. I've got so many, Paul, I've got so many fantastic experiences of the most ridiculous coincidences. And we could sit here for another 3 hours, and I could maybe shut up by the end of that. But I cannot tell people enough. Please just go out and immerse yourself in it with the right positive attitude, and you will blow your own socks off. You will.
Amazing. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Andy.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm sure it's inspired so many people. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Thank you.